What is body language? Do you really know? Most people think that they do, and some people think that they're experts. But the reality is very few people understand body language and can explain what it really is. The great thing is that everybody, either consciously or subconsciously, understands body language, and most people just understand it subconsciously. 60 to 90% of all the communication that we do is through body language, and yet we know very little about it. The great thing about body language is, if you understand it, you can learn far more about what people are saying and how you can say things to other people than you ever knew possible. This video will help you to do that. Think of the value and the power of body language, the ability to be able to look and observe people and understand not only what they're saying to you, but what their body is communicating to you. The ability to understand what their conscious and subconscious feelings are and how they're conveying them to you. This is powerful, powerful information, and it's important that you study this video and watch it very closely, listen to both what is being said and what is being shown to you. When you finish studying this video, you will be much more capable of understanding the communications that people are sending to you. Whether you're carrying on a normal conversation with a friend or a complete stranger, body language can help you to understand what is being said. In a job interview, whether you're doing the interviewing or whether you are being interviewed, understanding and using body language can help you to be successful in that interview. Using body language can help you prevent hiring the wrong person. In a meeting or during business negotiations, a good understanding of body language can help you to have a successful negotiation and a successful meeting. In a social setting, using body language, both understanding another person's body language and how to use your body language, can help you to make friends and to understand how people truly feel towards you and how they're reacting to what you're saying. Even in an argument, understanding body language and knowing the subtleties of body language can help you to understand the true message that somebody is trying to convey to you and how they really feel about the things that you're discussing. The great thing about body language is that we all have the ability to read each other's body language. We all have the God-given gift to understand, either consciously or subconsciously, how other people are conveying their message to us. 60 to 90% of all the messages we send to each other are conveyed through body language, whether we know it or not. Being able to understand the message that people are sending to us will help you to be successful in your negotiations with them, your relationships with them, your interviews with them. All of those things will help you to understand how people really feel. The vast majority of the messages that we send to each other and that we receive from other people are sent to us subconsciously. The body language that you often send to other people is also done subconsciously. The examples in this video will help you bring your reading, your understanding, your interpretation of other people's body language to the surface, to your conscious self. And you will then be able to interpret how they feel, the message they are sending to you, and understand how they're really feeling and thinking about the interaction they are having with you. The eyes truly are the gateway to the soul, and this is particularly true in body language. And when looking at somebody and trying to determine what thought process they're in, you have to observe the movement of their eyes. When observing somebody and observing their eyes, it's important to understand that they will normally be communicating from one of four channels: either a visual channel, an auditory or hearing channel, an emotional feeling channel, or a channel where they are constructing an answer. With visual, when people are in the visual channel, they are accessing their visual memory, and what they are doing is they are seeing in their mind's eye an event they may be recalling. When people do this, their eyes will often look up at the ceiling or move back and forth across the top of their eyelids. This is accessing visual memory, and a large percentage of people are visual type people where they use visual memory more than any other type. Another type is auditory or hearing memory. People will hear a conversation that took place. If you ask a question about what was said or what did they hear, you will often see people go into auditory or hearing memory as they're recalling that event. They can recall a conversation or they can recall noises, and when this takes place, as you're observing their eyes will often go off to their left. It would be your right, and sometimes you will see them give the answer and stay in auditory memory. That is where the eyes are often looking over to their left-hand side. The third channel that people work in is the emotional or feeling channel. This is of critical importance to be able to recognize when people are in the feeling channel, because this is where all important decisions are made. Oftentimes when somebody makes a confession or when they make an important life decision, you will see them look into the feeling channel. This is recognized by one of three different ways. Sometimes they will close their eyes. This may be for what would be considered a long blink, or the eyelids may remain closed. Or they may look down. Oftentimes the entire head will look down, sometimes just the eyes. A third way that you can recognize someone being in the feeling channel is when they are staring. They will stare off, and although they are looking in a certain direction, they're not seeing anything. What they are seeing is the memory that they have in their mind. It's critically important to remember that someone in the feeling channel is in an emotional state. And when you can recognize that someone has emotional feeling about someone, you can understand what their thought process is and how they feel about a certain subject. All confessions or all decisions to make a confession are done in the feeling channel. The fourth important thing to recognize about eye movement is when someone is in what is called construction. When people are in construction, if you ask them a question or you ask them to describe something, their eyes may look off to their right, which would be your left. At this time, people are either constructing the answer that they want to give you, which could be truthful or honest, or they are constructing something less than the truth. And someone's eyes may dart over to their right and then come back and look at you because simply what they were doing was deciding how to construct the answer they wanted to give you. This does not mean that it is the truth. It doesn't mean that it's a lie. It means that simply that they were in construction. The thing that's important about understanding when people are in the construction channel is that the longer they stay in construction, the more likelihood that they are in fact putting together something less than the truth.
Before analyzing the specifics of a certain body language movement or gesture, it is necessary to determine a kind of behavioral baseline for establishing what an individual's natural body language looks like. When someone is acting naturally and telling you the truth, he will demonstrate body language that is termed as open and honest. He will demonstrate more relaxed and open gestures in the way he holds and places his arms, which will only partially cross his body or not cross his body at all. His hands will remain open with the palms toward you. A man may loosen his necktie or take off his jacket if he feels he has nothing to hide. His legs will be crossed in a way that is more relaxed, or he will uncross his legs and sit with them open and apart. If there is an established feeling of openness and acceptance, he may move closer to you or lean in your direction. When you observe these behaviors, you are receiving a strong indication that the person doing them is relaxed and comfortable with you and the subject or situation at hand. He is being honest and accepting of what you are saying to him. These gestures should, however, appear relaxed and not stiff. If his posture seems rigid and he appears to be forcing his movements, he may be trying to convince you that he is relaxed and open, when in reality he is concealing something. Close observation for a few minutes should tell you if his body language is genuine or a sham. person may feel defensive for a number of reasons. He may feel threatened, falsely accused, or guilty about something he's done. He may know he's guilty of something and is afraid of being caught. There are many factors that contribute to a feeling of defensiveness, all depending on the situation and the person's state of mind. A person who is in a defensive mood will demonstrate this in several ways through body language. Let's see how this scenario illustrates this.
Hey, how you doing today? I'm Sergeant Fisher of the Rock County Sheriff's Office. I'm working airport detail. Are you flying out today?
A defensive person will assume a rigid body posture, and although he may try to relax from time to time as he becomes aware of it, this stiff posture will return. Depending on how the situation or conversation he is in progresses, the stiffness of his posture may increase or decrease over time.
A friend of mine is, yeah. Okay, are you here waiting for him? Are you coming or going? Or?
In an effort to distance himself from the situation he is in, he may lean away from you. If he is seated, he may push his chair back and stretch out his legs to create a kind of barrier between you.
I'm just waiting, yeah. I mean, he should be flying in soon, I guess. Okay, what's his name, sir?
He will make minimal to no eye contact, turning his head away. You will generally see this kind of behavior from a person who feels uncomfortable and doesn't want to face something or someone who upsets him. Sometimes he may press his chin to his chest or simply keep his head down and at an angle.
What's his name? Or your friend. I assume that he or she?
His name's John.
John what, sir?
John Smith. Well, what do you care what my friend's name is?
He will cross his arms, his legs, or both. This crossing of limbs may be done together or separately, and can become very tight, as if he is trying to build a wall.
Well, the airport's a secured environment. What we're trying to do is anyone we see hanging around or loitering or waiting for prolonged periods, we just try to check them out and see what they're here for.
Well, I'm waiting for my friend. I'm not allowed to wait for my friend? Is that the problem?
Oh, sure, you can wait as long as you like. Where's he flying in from?
One or both of his hands may be clenched into fists, and he may start to play with something nearby to distract him from what is bothering him and making him feel defensive. He may even grip and squeeze his arm, knee, or leg in a massaging motion.
He's flying in from Virginia.
Okay. Do you know the flight number by chance?
No, I just figured, he was flying in, soon, so I'm waiting here for him.
Okay, so you don't know exactly when he is flying in then?
Yeah, I know. He's flying in when he gets here. He'll be here real soon.
Okay. Do you have any idea when, sir?
He may also purse his lips or bite his upper or lower lip. A person who is in a defensive mood is trying to hide his true feelings for reasons that may have nothing at all to do with the situation he's in. Some people just feel naturally guilty or defensive. In any case, defensiveness is a strong emotion that can give you an indication of whether or not the person you are dealing with is being honest.
It's hot, and I don't see why I should have to bother.
And now, just to recap, I'm going to have Mr. King make a presentation. He's going to talk about the realignment of the staff and the realignment of the facilities. He has a presentation to make for us. It'll be just a few minutes. It's all yours, sir.
Well, in thinking about the realignment of the staff, this is becoming a real big issue, and we're just not sure what direction we're going to go. And
Body language movements are often more obvious and even exaggerated during times of stress. Everyone experiences anxiety to a varying degree, depending on the stimulus and his general emotional state. A nervous person may be trying to hide something, or is simply feeling anxious for any number of different reasons. Here are some of the most common signs of anxiety. Someone who has a fear of public speaking and tries to make a presentation in front of a group of people may clear his throat frequently, or even get choked up when speaking. He might also move his hand to his mouth from time to time. It is important to note that a person who speaks with his hand over his mouth may not only be nervous, but also lying. Although there is no single body language movement that proves deception, talking with one's mouth covered is one of the strongest indications of a lie. While seated, a nervous person may frequently shift his body weight, wave his foot, or tap it on the floor. If standing, he might pace for short distances, lean from one foot to another, or even sway or bounce gently. A nervous person who thinks he is alone and unobserved may whistle, hum, or do any number of repetitive physical actions just to work off tension. Fidgeting with a watch or other piece of jewelry may also give someone away as being anxious. He may tap his fingers on a nearby surface, such as a desk or chair arm. Someone who is nervous might also pick lint off his clothing, whether or not there is any to pick. Other gestures in this vein include rubbing his fingers, hands, or arms, massaging his arms, legs, or shoulders, biting his fingernails, or even pinching at himself. His neck and face may darken in a blush, and his lips or facial muscles might start twitching. His mouth may be slightly open or very tightly shut. A defensive person will very often exhibit signs of nervousness due to the effort of trying to hide something, while a nervous person may simply be anxious for reasons of his own. The next time you watch a talk show or news interview, pay close attention to the person being interviewed. Most untrained people have at least some difficulty performing in front of a camera, and this anxiety can be very obvious if you know the signs to look for.
Bill will be with you in a minute.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Don't jump, Katie, don't jump. You haven't even made a payment yet.
Readiness or anticipation can be differentiated from the emotion of nervousness by analyzing the context. A person who is in a state of readiness generally has a vested interest in the event to come, whether it is the arrival of a friend, the outcome of a sporting event, or the start of an appointment. Here are some of the most common indicators of anticipation. If seated, he will be on the edge of the chair. The expression "he was sitting on the edge of his seat" is especially apt here. Occasionally, his foot may wave back and forth or bounce against the floor. If standing, he may place one or both hands on his hips, with his feet spread slightly apart. He will also tap his foot. The mild stress generated by the feeling of anticipation is often released through one or more of the extremities. He may frequently check his watch or a nearby clock, sometimes several times in 1 minute. A person in a state of readiness may just keep still except for his face, with the eyes wide open and active, as if looking for something. Note that nervousness and anticipation tend to go hand in hand, and it is your job as a student of body language to determine the difference between genuine anxiety and simple readiness.
Mr. King, I need to speak with you. I'm very disappointed in your presentation. I expected more out of you this morning. I expected you to be able to give us specific details, specific incidents. I'm sorry. Would you two excuse us for just a moment? Would you step out of the room, please? I'm sorry about this. Mr. King, you have to understand. We have a whole board meeting here. I expected you to be able to come in here in your position with your knowledge and your background and speak to these people so they would know exactly what was going on, exactly how we're going to handle this situation.
Anger is one of the most powerful emotions in the human repertoire, and the body language associated with it is generally very noticeable. As in most examples, the greater the intensity of the emotion, the more pronounced the body language. A person who is angry will show it in the following ways. His body may become very rigid, and might even shake slightly. The angrier he is, the stiffer his posture may become. He may begin to breathe shallowly and rapidly, flooding his body with oxygen. His face and neck may get flushed and red. One of the most frequently evident symptoms of anger is a clenched fist, or a rapid opening and closing of the hands. Someone who is extremely angry may even pound a nearby table or smack his fist into his open hand. When he is not speaking, his lips may close very tightly, and his jaw may become locked and rigid as he grinds his teeth. The muscles on the side of the jaw may bunch noticeably, and in someone who is very angry, his face and neck may even twitch with the force of that anger. He may narrow his eyes, squinting at the focus of his anger. He will usually maintain eye contact with the person he is mad at, and as his anger increases, his pupils may dilate. Anger can be a very difficult emotion to suppress, though many people try to do so. Passive-aggressive behavior is often characterized by concealed anger and resentment, so it is important to study these warning signs in order to get a better understanding of how a person feels about you or what you are doing.
Remember where any of this stuff was. Python. It's got to be around here somewhere. Audio, that would make sense. Sounds? No, that's not it.
Many similar body language postures, movements, and gestures can mean different things, so it is vital to recognize the context of the situation you are observing before trying to decipher the meaning of a particular body language action. No single example of body language has a specific definition of joy, anger, deception, or any other emotion. An example of this is the feeling of frustration, an emotion closely linked to anger. Depending on the situation, frustration can quickly turn into anger or even rage. Here are some examples. He may stomp his feet on the floor in place, or as he stalks around the room. His breathing may become heavy and rapid, varying according to the level of frustration. His hands will clench into fists, which he might shake or strike a nearby surface with. He may also slap a table or desk at which he is seated just prior to standing up. If his fists aren't clenched, he may instead run his fingers through his hair, quickly followed by throwing his arms down to his sides. A frustrated person may wring his hands or rub the back of his neck or some other part of the body with quick, almost jerky movements. His eyes may either narrow in a squint or stare blindly as if in confusion. If he has this look, it is likely that he isn't really seeing what he is staring at, but is instead focusing mentally on the situation that is causing the frustration. He may also grit his teeth and set his jaw. A person can become frustrated for a number of reasons, including having to wait for someone who is late, being thwarted in an activity or endeavor, or watching something that he cannot control but wants to.
What have you got for me?
Well, you wanted some idea of how our internet sales stacked up against all retail sales. So I had one of my people run a graph from August of '01 to today, June '04. And the graph generally shows an upward trend. Way back in '01 we were at about 25%. Internet sales.
There are several body language indicators that can tell you when someone you're observing or speaking to is feeling confident. Context and perspective will give you clues as to why someone is exhibiting this confidence. For example, a person may feel confident because you've believed a lie he's just told you. A salesman might feel confident that you're ready to buy a product or service, or a superior may simply feel confident in his authority. People show their confidence in the following ways. Someone who is confident may assume an erect stance or sitting posture, with his chin raised slightly or sticking out to some degree. Alternatively, he may sit back with his feet on the desk as a demonstration of this confidence. In this posture, he might also lace his hands behind his head. If he is seated in this position and begins sliding his locked hands down to rub the back of his neck, it means that he is evaluating and assessing what is being said to him. An excellent body language indicator of confidence is steepling. This is when the person's hands are placed together with the fingertips touching. While in this position, he may gently bounce his fingers together. A good rule of thumb is the higher he holds his hands, the more confident he feels. A confident person will maintain steady and continuous eye contact. He will blink very little and stay quite focused on the person with whom he is dealing. As stated previously, an individual will show confidence for a number of different reasons, and proper contextual analysis is required before you can make a reasonable assessment of why that person is feeling confident in a given situation.
Morning, thank you for attending. I'm glad you could all make it this morning. We need to go over some numbers. Can you hear me? Just want to make sure you're all paying attention to me. We need to go over some numbers. We're going to be realigning some of our district offices, and as you know, because of the economic times, we do need to cut back on some of our staff. We are going to be cutting back at our Athens office, that's Athens, Greece. We're going to be going from 300 people. We're going to be going back to about 120. I know it's going to be hard for you to realize that, but unfortunately that's the nature of the game.
Boredom is a feeling we have all experienced at one time or another. And generally the last thing a truly bored person thinks about is the message he is sending out through body language. Someone who is not interested in what you are saying is very difficult to communicate with, no matter how important you think the message may be. This indifference often manifests itself in the following ways. A bored person will show a very relaxed posture to the point of slouching. As he starts to literally doze off, his head may bob slightly, and his eyelids will slowly close. If seated, he may settle more deeply into his chair. He may begin to daydream, thinking about something other than what you are trying to tell him. His face will lose all expression, his eyes may stare blankly outward, and his lips may go slack. Instead of staring off and doing nothing, someone who is bored may tap his fingers, swing his feet, or both. He might also doodle on a piece of paper or toy with something nearby, like a pen or an article of clothing. Boredom is a barrier to effective communication, and if you find yourself seeing signs of it during conversation, you may want to change the way you're presenting your ideas to make them more engaging to a listener.
Friends, they bought a hunting lodge upstate New York with 13 acres. They just rebuilt it.
So he went in with his friends and bought it?
Yeah, there was 20 of them.
Have you been up there?
I haven't seen it yet, but we're going this winter.
Good.
I don't hunt, but I'm a cook. They like the way Grandpa cooks, you know?
That's good. That's good.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. My friend and I are going to go. We're going to do some cooking and maybe a lot of drinking, you know, while they go out hunting. Card playing.
That's good for you.
Oh, it's excellent.
That's
it's
great.
excellent.
Good.
Keeps us out of trouble.
He'll be happy to have you there.
While enthusiasm may be one of the easiest emotions to feign for a short time, it is also one of the most difficult to conceal. Regardless of culture and language, the body language signs of enthusiasm or avid interest are universal. An interested party is more alert to what you are saying and more likely to agree with your position. The most common indicators of enthusiasm include an erect posture or one that is leaned forward slightly. An enthusiastic person will frequently nod his head in agreement or acknowledgement of what you are telling him. His hands will be open, and if seated at a table or desk, his arms will be extended toward you. His eyes will be wide, and his eyebrows will be raised. He may smile from time to time, either broadly or slightly, depending on the intensity of his enthusiasm. If you can hear his voice, it will be lively and well modulated. The pitch will likely be somewhat higher than it normally is. A person may try to fool you into believing that he is enthusiastic about what you are telling him, but it is very hard to do so over a long period of time. Through conscious evaluation of his body language, you can get a picture that is much closer to the truth.
Mr. James, I'd like to present to you some figures that we have here for downsizing some areas, and some areas need to be increased. We've got Palm Springs International.
When someone is evaluating something he is hearing or being told, he will show it through body language. Assessment doesn't necessarily equal agreement, but it does show that you're being listened to. If the person with whom you are speaking shows at least some of the following body language movements, it's a good bet that your message is being communicated properly. When evaluating what is being said, the listener may tilt his head to one side or the other. The more the listener tilts his head, the greater the degree of evaluation. Someone seriously assessing a speech or presentation will often sit closer to the edge of his seat with his body leaned toward the speaker. He may stroke his chin, or a beard or mustache if he has one, or rub his forehead. Unconsciously, he might touch or stroke his cheek or some other part of his face and neck. As mentioned in the segment on nervousness, signs of evaluation and assessment are generally very noticeable during television interviews.
With this event we're planning, we're going to need a lot of tables and chairs to pull it off the way we really like to. But we're going to need to get some fans in to keep everything cool. And
Tell me what you got.
Well, we have 10 to 12 computers set up right now. I was thinking maybe 2 or 3 more, a couple printers and an overhead projector, maybe a microphone and a podium. Otherwise, I think we have everything else that we need.
What have you got coming in?
well, we need to get caterers in too, and if we're going to get everybody really happy about this, we need to get a real good caterer and maybe...
When someone doesn't believe what you are saying or disagrees with the position you are taking, that person will sometimes indicate the way he feels through body language, instead of giving a straight verbal negative. There is almost always a telltale sign a good student of body language can interpret that reveals either a reason to be suspicious of someone or shows that the person with whom you are dealing rejects you or doubts what you are saying. Here are some of the signs to look for. A person expressing doubt or dislike may draw back or turn a little bit to one side as you speak, angling slightly away from you. Along with this body shift, he may cross his arms, his legs, or even both in an attempt to close himself off from what you are saying. He will stop looking at you, focusing on something or someone else during the conversation. He may only occasionally glance sidelong in your direction and avoid eye contact altogether. Because this can easily be interpreted as nervousness or even deception, you must analyze this behavior contextually. If the person you are talking to repeatedly fails to make eye contact and has no apparent reason to feel nervous, it is likely that he doubts what you are saying to him. This doubt can also be manifested in the subject squinting or rubbing his eyes, in a subconscious gesture that literally means that he cannot believe what he's seeing. He may also shoot a quick glance your way and raise his eyebrows in a clear expression of disbelief. This may be combined with a tilt of the head to the side. If he does look at you for an extended period of time, he might just tilt his head down and peer at you from under his raised eyebrows or over the edge of his eyeglasses. Much like rubbing of the eyes, he may touch or rub his nose, subconsciously telling you that what you are saying smells funny. He may also rub his hands, tug on his earlobes, or clear his throat repeatedly. As in every instance, each of these body language messages must be evaluated in the context of the situation. For example, someone clearing his throat may simply be thirsty instead of doubtful. Because some people prefer to keep quiet instead of verbally disagreeing with you, it is important to recognize these signals in order to make sure your message is received properly. If you've ever had the feeling that someone just doesn't much care for you, consciously observe the body language that person is sending your way, and compare it to what you've just seen here.
This one we're getting paid for, so that's, oh, wait a minute, that's even worse, isn't it?
No.
I'm sorry.
I think there's a term for that, Dana.
And it's not this kind of movie at all. We gotta go next door.
That's right. When we finish here, we'll just get in the car and drive
When
next
I was
door.
driving out today, did you see the 6-passenger, 6-door limo come in?
No.
One of the most valuable benefits to studying body language is learning when someone accepts you and what you are saying. If you find yourself at a distance watching a group of people engaged in conversation, you can generally tell who accepts and likes whom just by observing body language. Common examples of acceptance include: when someone likes you or is interested in accepting of what you are saying, he will turn more toward you. He will square up with you, facing you straight on. In general, people tend to move closer or lean in toward people that they like, and angle away from those that they don't. A woman will generally point her lead foot at the person she most likes. She will also tend to touch that person more frequently during conversation, such as placing her hand on his arm or shoulder. Her eye contact will be steady and constant. Someone who accepts what you are saying will occasionally put his open hand to his chest in a gesture of agreement. He will also keep his arms and palms open and exposed instead of crossed at the chest. He may nod at what you tell him, either slowly and carefully or very quickly. He will also tend to look at you more than he does anyone else. Most people who like you or agree with what you say want you to know it. And as such, the body language associated with acceptance is generally unforced and deliberate.
Now that you've viewed this video, you have a better understanding of body language and the messages that those around you are sending to you. You also have a better understanding of your own body language and how you are sending subtle and subconscious messages to other people. Remember, body language is a perishable skill. You have to go out and practice it. You have opportunities around you every day when you interact with people to practice body language, so do it. Don't lose the skill, and refer to the video when you need to. Whenever there's a conflict between what somebody is saying to you and the interpretation you have of their body language, believe the body language. Always remember this: body language is the unspoken truth.